Okay, welcome back to part 2 of this little mini-series. The previous video you should have downloaded the Okada Realtime Voice Changer. In this video, we're gonna go over how you can download the web UI that allows you to train voices. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into it. And this isn't my real voice. I'm just using the voice changer, if you couldn't tell.
First, for members at the packages tier of my channel, I'm gonna go over the installation real quick. So if you're not a member, in order to gain access to packages, you need to sign up for the packages tier. The supporter tier will be getting something for this video. You'll be getting an English pre-trained model and also the voice that I used in the beginning if you want to play around with that. So with that, head over into the membership tab, then go to the Beatrice V2 link right here and download the package from the Google Drive link. Right click the Beatrice Trainer web UI, extract all, and then go ahead and extract it. It's going to be about 10 gigs after it's finished. And once it's finished, you can just double click into the folder and then go to launch webui.bat. Go ahead and launch the web UI just to make sure it launches. And then you'll be met with the Beatrice Voice Changer Training web UI. And then to update the package, just double click this update package.bat and it's going to run through all of the downloads it needs. When it stops you at these points, just type in A, click enter, A. And then you'll get to some prompts where it says Y, so do Y, enter, and when it's finished, you'll be met with this. So there might be more Y enters that you have to do in the future, but that's it for now. And then don't skip ahead yet. You are going to need UVR on your computer, so watch how to install UVR. And with that, we're going to jump into the manual installation plus UVR. My recommended prerequisite for this would be a 30 or 40 series NVIDIA graphics card. I believe you can use a 10 or 20 series graphics card, but you might run into VRAM issues with smaller cards. So just keep that in mind if you have an older GPU. All right, so let's head over into the GitHub repository. It's going to be linked down below in the description where you can find it. And like I said, you're going to need an NVIDIA GPU for this and then UVR. So let's go and install that first. So open link in new tab. UVR is Ultimate Vocal Remover and is used for pre-processing audio files. So we're going to need this if you're going to be using or training on any audio that might have background noise. So scroll down to where it says main download link and then open in new tab. It's just going to open a download file explorer where you can save a location where you want to download it to. I already have it downloaded in this clean folder here, so I'm not going to re-download it, but go ahead and do that. And then once that's finished, you can go into and double click it in that folder. So let's double click and run through installation real quick. I accept agreement, next, and then click install to run the installation. I'm not going to do it because I already have it installed on my computer, but once you do that, when you go to search down here, you should be able to see that Ultimate Vocal Remover pops up. And when you click it, it should launch the Ultimate Vocal Remover. So here's the screen for that. But once you have that successfully installed, we're going to go and continue along. So exit out of the vocal remover and we'll head through installation. So let's go ahead and install Python 3.11 and then git. So Python 3.11, scroll down to the Windows installer 64-bit, install this. All you need to do is download and run the installer, go through all the normal options, and then there is an option to add Python to path. Make sure you checkbox that before you run through installation. Should be on the first window. And then inside of Git, you go to download for Windows, and then click here to download. And this will get you an installer. Run through all of the default stuff for that as well, and you'll be good to go. So you should now have Python and Git installed on your computer, and the best orientation for this is going to be a split windowed orientation. So go ahead and drag a browser in the left hand side, and in the right hand side open up a file explorer in the folder that you want to install the training web UI into, and we're going to open up a new command line terminal. The easiest way to do this, go to the address bar, type in cmd, and you'll be met with a terminal here, or you can right click and then do open in terminal. But let's drag this to the right hand side. And this is going to be pretty much copy and paste. So each step we are going to copy and paste. So copy this first one, copy the next one, copy the third one. And then for this fourth one, if you've never activated a virtual environment on your computer before, you're going to need to change execution policy to remote signed. So go ahead and follow this Microsoft link right here, where you can read through this form to get that going. And then once you have that finished, we can now copy and paste virtual environment activate. And then we're going to start doing some installation. So these installations are going to take a little bit of time, but it's going to be necessary to run this. So pip install requirements text, let that finish through. And then this next step, we're going to uninstall Torch and install Torch with this version frozen. You could technically do this before run requirements, but in case that Torch for some reason gets overwritten, this is always a safe choice to do. So I'm going to clear the terminal by typing CLS, enter, and then we're going to paste this pip uninstall Torch. And then you're going to type in Y to say yes, uninstall Torch 2.4.1, and then copy and paste this next line. So this is going to be about 2.5 gigabytes, and that's going to take a little bit of time. I have mine cached already, so it's going to be pretty quick for me. All right, next, let's initialize the submodule. So just copy that entire box, and then you'll enter for this last one, and then we need to install these submodules. So copy the box, paste anyways, and run through installation. So this first one's going to run automatically, and the second one, we need to click enter to get that one running. All right, clear terminal, CLS, and then we are going to grab assets from Hugging Face. So git clone here. This is going to be about 1 gigabyte, so we're going to wait for that to finish up. Then cd into that folder we just cloned. Check out this repository at this specific hash, and then we'll navigate back to the root directory. So we are finished with installation. We just need one more step, and that's going to be taking the assets out of that repository we just downloaded and putting them into our root folder. The root folder is this one right here, the home directory for everything that is contained in the web UI. So this Hugging Face repo, Beatrice Trainer, let's navigate into there. This assets folder, we want to double click into here and copy all of the folders in here. So right click, copy, go back to the root directory, and then inside of assets, we are going to paste that into here. Alrighty, and with that, we are all good to start running some scripts. But before that, I'm going to show how you can make a batch script just so that you don't have to manually activate the virtual environment each time and launch it via the command line. So right click in the directory, go to text document, and we are going to call this launch underscore web UI .bat and delete the docs.txt part, and then just click yes for this option. If you don't see that, you're going to need to unhide extensions on Windows 11 or Windows 10. So if that is hidden, you might have to do a Google search on how to do that. Once you have this file, we can go right click edit, and it's going to be a blank, basically text document. Copy and paste these lines into here, file save, and then exit. And now when we double click launch webui.bat, it should start running. So give it some time to boot up. And here we go. So we now have it all up and running. All right, so installation is all complete. We are now going to move over into dataset processing and getting a proper dataset for this trainer. To do this, you're going to need some type of audio file. You can get the audio file from anywhere. It can be audiobooks, podcasts, whatever you want to use, but the cleaner, the better. So I'm going to grab some voice lines from Plankton, from SpongeBob, and we are going to process with that. All right, so I got this MP4 file of Plankton voice lines from YouTube, and we are going to process that in UVR. So what you want to do is search up UVR, and when you launch it, you'll be met with this screen. And what we want to do is we want to download Kim Vocal 1. So to do that, go to this wrench, go to Download Center, MDX.net, and then scroll around until you can find Kim Vocal 1. I don't have it because I already downloaded it. But once you find it, select it, and then click this download button. So it'll start to download the model, and you can use it. So put UVR off to the side for a little bit. We want to now transcribe this Plankton file, or we want to take the background audio out of it. So we want vocals only in UVR. The easiest way to do that is drag the audio file into input, and you'll see the input has updated. And for output, what you can do is create a new directory and say, we'll just call this output. And then we'll just drag that into here. So we've got our output, and then we can just run through all of these. So just set this to MDX.net, segment size 512, default you could actually change this to a little bit lower if your GPU is small. And we want GPU conversion, vocals only, Kim vocal 1, and start processing. So depending on the speed of your GPU, this is going to take a little bit of time, so just wait for that to finish. Pro tip, if you want to process an entire folder of audio files, all you need to do is just create a new folder, call it whatever, and then you just drag this folder into input, and it'll process all of the folder or all of the audio files inside of this input folder. So you can do that for the input as well, like we did with the output. Alrighty, and once you're finished with that, we can close out of UVR, but just make sure that you use UVR for any audio preprocessing for datasets in the future. It really helps out, especially for training these voice models. So if you go inside of output, you should have that file here. I went ahead and did another one. We are going to train up Rani from Elden Ring, so we've got 2. And one thing about Beatrice is it's pretty data hungry, so it likes a lot of data, so the more the better in my experience. Okay, and so now we just need to set a few things up. So let's open up output, the output UVR output in a new window. So we'll drag that to the right hand side, and then let's open up the Beatrice root folder here. And we are going to now head into datasets, and in here we want to create a folder that is the name of the model that we want to train. This isn't speaker name, this is model name, and so let's call this model 1. You can name this, let's say you're training Elden Ring characters, you can say Elden Ring. Let's say SpongeBob, you can say SpongeBob characters. You can name this whatever, it doesn't really matter. So inside of here, we'll double click into it, and now we'll name some characters or some speakers. So let's create one folder. We're going to call this Plankton, and then we'll create another folder. We'll call this Rani. So now let's just drag and drop these inside of their folders, and we are good to go. Rani and Rani, Plankton and Plankton. So with that, we can now close out of the file explorers and go inside of the web UI that is launched. If you haven't launched it, just go ahead and relaunch it. So inside of datasets to process, you won't see the dataset to process if you have it opened already. So refresh datasets available, and now you can see it. So we'll click it, and if you set it up incorrectly, then you'll get an error. For example, if I just reopen that back up, I'm just going to call this something random, refresh datasets, and click it, we're going to get an error. So that's what's going to happen if you set it up incorrectly. So just make sure you're careful with that. So with this, we can begin to process, and this might take a little bit of time because what's happening is it's transcribing the dataset in order to split the dataset based on subtitles. And so this is going to finish through using Whisper X. So give this a little bit of time to finish. And I should note, if you don't have the packaged version, you're going to incur a few downloads, and that's going to be the Whisper models that are needed for this to happen. So that's going to be about another 3 gigs. And you'll find this inside of the root directory inside of Whisper models, and you'll see them here. So wait for those to finish up. All right, and once it's finished, you'll get dataset creation completed successfully, and we can now head over into the train tab. So head to train, and you're going to do the same thing, refresh training datasets available, and we'll click into here. So I have a Jared's recommendation tab, but it's just a recommendation, not necessarily a rule or a law. So down below, I've got some description of what the sliders and whatnot do. So if you want to read that, go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is set the batch size to what my GPU can handle. I have a 4090, which has 24 gigabytes of VRAM. So at 32 for my batch size, it about fully saturates my GPU. So given I have 24 gigabytes of VRAM, if you have, let's say 12, you can probably run this at 16. If you've got 6, probably 8 or lower. But if you're running into any VRAM issues, which I'll show you how you can monitor, then you might want to lower this. So that's batch size. And then epochs, basically what an epoch is one cycle through all of your audio data. So inside of your training folder, which in the root is going to be here, and training, model 1, you'll find the folders have a bunch of segmented audio. Basically, it's the word that describes the model seeing all of these samples at least once. So that's what an epoch is. And so I'm going to lower it to 5 just so we can see the recommendation. You can read through this, but you can keep increasing it or go to what I suggest inside of here. So I suggest to myself that we should do 11 epochs. So we're going to go to 11 and then leave number of workers at 4. These are what loads the data onto into your GPU for training. Save interval epochs. This is how often you will save a outputted model or basically a checkpoint. So just in case you close training out midway, you'll have some save points. I don't like actually odd numbers, so I'm going to increase this to, let's just go to 20, and then I'm going to save every 5 epochs. And then console log interval, just leave this at 10. You can change this, but yeah, I just leave it at 10, and then we can start training. So click start training, and we'll open up the terminal. What's going to happen here is you're going to incur an additional download, and that is going to be speech moss, which is this right here. So you can actually find this inside of your users folder, which if you go out, you got your username, jared.cache torch hub, and then Terrapan right here in case you want to delete it later. So you can delete those and the checkpoints here if you want to delete this trainer sometime in the future. So just remember that. And then it's going to start training. So you'll get epoch 1, iteration 1, and my computer actually started crashing because I was training at a too large of a batch size, and I'm also recording. So I'm going to set this to a value that's lower so that I can record and show it and get that up and running again. And let's take a careful look at the steps right here. You might think that training was slow, but for some reason, after a little bit of time, it starts to speed up. I think it's related to epoch. So once it finishes an epoch, gets into the second epoch, it starts to increase how fast it's training. So if it's training slow in the beginning, you might see it speed up later on. So I'm going to let this run, and then we'll be able to test out the models. Alrighty, so the last step just finished, so it saved it, and nothing outputs to this training console. I do have to update that, so nothing as of now, but yeah, that is going to be the Beatrice model trained, and then I'm going to show how you can get that into the voice changer. Now, there is this settings tab. This is just some cosmetic stuff, dark mode. If you don't want this theme, this custom theme that I have on here, you can toggle it off. But yeah, that's going to be it. So let's now head over into how to actually use this. So there's one thing I actually wanted to go over in the web UI. There is this launch Tensor Board button. So if you click it, it's going to launch Tensor Board, and this is how you can actually monitor training. Go to scalars, then click this refresh button, and inside of here we can kind of observe what is happening with training. And generally what we're looking for is it to go down. And so if we increase smoothing all the way to max, you can see that the curve has a trend downwards, which means the model is training generally well. And then discriminator sometimes goes up. I'm actually not too sure about this one and its correlation to quality, but definitely G, as it goes down, it seems like the model quality increases. So, and one more thing, I promise. If you want to continue training, I guess I should show you how you can do that. So to resume training, you're going to want to click this check mark. For example, if I start trying to train here, I'm going to get this error message. And so that means an existing model exists. So either follow the instructions here, or you can just resume training with more epochs. So if you do this and start training, you'll be able to start from the previous checkpoints and continue training if you want to train for longer. So that's an important option just for you guys to know. Open up the file explorer and navigate into the root directory. We now have a folder called trained models. So double click into that and you'll see model_1 or whatever you named it. So double click into that, then double click into models, and you'll see a bunch of files in here. The only one that we really need for Beatrice is this last one, and we need to throw it into a zip file. So all you have to do is right click it and then send to compressed zip folder, and then name this to whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call this, I'm just going to call this model1.zip, and that's how it's going to import into Beatrice. From the previous video, you should already have the Realtime voice installer downloaded. So let's just navigate into that wherever you have it on your computer, and then start.http bat, and it'll open up right here. So we can go and head into it. So I have a model in here already, which is the LibraryTTS WAV files. And this is the model I was using at the beginning of the video. This will be available to members of my channel. All channel members of all tiers will get access to this one. So you can use this one if you want to test it out. But I'm going to put on headphones because that's, I'm going to be routing it to that. But regardless, let's go and import this model. So to do that, what you do is go to edit, go to an empty space here. I'm going to upload a Beatrice v2 model. Select that and then navigate into the Beatrice Trainer Web UI folder and then your trained model. So we're going to go to that same spot where we zipped it earlier, and we are now going to open it. So here we go. Go ahead, click upload, and then we can close that. So there is no image with this, unfortunately. I do believe you can add an image to it, but I haven't tried that out yet, so I'm not too sure. Once you click on the model, it is ready to start being used, but I want to set up a few things first. So I went over client and server in the previous video. So your client, you want your in to be the microphone, out to be whatever speaker or headphone you want to output to. And for server, I am using WASAPI. So I have my microphone set here and then my headphones set. And then once again, I did say that you do need to uncheck WASAPI for other applications to be able to hear you when you are using it in this mode. Let's go and start the
voice changer, and here we go. So we've got the voice changer right here, and it's all good to go. So this model does sound a little bit like Plankton, and there are a couple of things that we can change. So we've got the pitch here. I think if we speak in a little bit of a higher tone, we can bring this down. And this pitch just change how high or low the voice sounds. And then formant is kind of how nasally the model sounds. So you can see that we got a little bit higher nasal. Now we got lower nasal, and that's going to be your pitch and your formant. And then let's try the second model that we have trained up in here, which is Rani. And let's go and click on that. So let's now change this to 12. And then we can change the pitch or the formant up a little bit so that it can kind of be more female. But one thing to note, I'm actually going to turn
off the voice changer and say a couple of things. One thing to note is that if you train with multiple speakers, you might have some influence of one speaker on the other, and that we're seeing a little bit here. I'm getting a little bit of Plankton, I think, inside of Rani. So let's turn that back on, and
it's if I talk a little bit, it does not sound like Rani from Elden Ring, and I've got a little bit of her inside of here.
But I also have a little bit of Plankton in there, so that is one thing that I've noticed if you train with multiple speakers, especially if one speaker has more audio than the other. So if you want to get a high quality voice for a single speaker, or as high quality as possible, I'd recommend just training with one speaker instead of multiple. Feel free to play around with that, and it might change based on your work case and your scenario. So yeah, those are the basics to get you started. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of other things, some of them more important than others. So let's start with the most important one first, and that is increasing the quality of the model. So one thing that I've noticed with the model is because the author is Japanese, the base pre-trained model is in Japanese, and everything that is done in the training is in Japanese, except for the audio that you might provide it. So if you have an English model, you preferably want to have an English pre-trained model and then also some English validation data. So to do that, we're going to have to go back into training and talk a little bit about a few things. So here we are back in the Beatrice web UI. We want to open up a file explorer and navigate into that folder. So let's head into the root directory of the web UI. So a few things that we want to change and edit are our configurations. So if you go into assets, you can set all of your configurations here. And so you see two folders, test and then test English. The default configuration is using this test right here, which is Japanese audio. And then it's also using a Japanese pre-trained base, which is my assumption. I believe this is trained with a lot of Japanese audio. So one thing that you can do right now is go into the configuration, open in Notepad, and you can change this in test wave directory to test_English. Now, I have provided those files for you, and I think what this does is it uses English samples to validate training as you're doing training. So it starts to learn English a little bit better instead of using Japanese samples. So you can do this and then file save. So now this will use the English files that I've provided here. And then the second part is going to be pre-trained model. So ideally, we would want a English pre-trained model. Now, if you're a member on my channel, I'm actually providing you a pre-trained model that you can use, which you would find here. So it's going to be in that community tab, that membership tab where you can find the English pre-trained model and then the Liberty TTS inference model. That is the one, the inference model is the one that I used in the beginning of the video. And this English pre-trained one is what you would put inside of that folder. So let me just go into the members only package. And here we are inside of assets. You have pre-trained and you've got the English pre-trained. So you would just place it inside of this folder. And then inside of configuration, you would change the name of this to that pre-trained model. So in this case, we would do something like this, where you copy the name of it and then just change out the name and then save this file, which would be .pt, and then you can train on this English pre-trained model. So I won't guarantee that this gives you a perfect model, but it has improved the quality on some of the models that I've tested and trained on. And I think it makes sense because having a lot of English data in the pre-trained model is going to help the model generalize to English data sets. And so this might be the same for other languages if you're trying to train in other languages and speak in other languages. Now, if you are not a member of this channel, the way you can make your own pre-trained model is you would download the Liberty TTS R dataset. And so if you scroll down on the GitHub page, if you go to this link here, you'll find Liberty TTS, and you can actually train on the 500 hours of Liberty speech here. Dataset's about 46 gigs. In order to use it as a new pre-trained base in English. So I've had good results with that. If I just go back into here
and start trying to use the voice changer, it pronounces words a little bit better than say like the plankton model. So let me go down to 0. It doesn't. It sounds pretty good in most parts, but some of the R's sounds kind of weird, and I think that's because of the pre-trained model. So yeah, this is that Liberty TTS model inference file that I'm providing my members. So you can try this out yourselves, but this is basically Liberty TTS trained on and then converted into a Beatrice model.
So that is going to be the biggest thing for quality sakes. And disclaimer, I'm still playing around with a lot of things. So if you're interested in a follow-up video for maybe some tips and tricks, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll compile some things that I've tried since now to that video. And there's one more thing that I want to go over inside of the voice changer, and that is this advanced settings tab. So I want to show this with the voice changer real quick, and I'm gonna go and
start this. So there is a little bit of an issue when you are using this with the WAS API. Sometimes what ends up happening is you start getting kind of like the static noise that you could probably hear as I'm speaking, and that is because of this little monitor here. So I'm going to go into this advanced settings here and turn that off. So this performance monitor, just go and click no, and we don't want that. And so now as I'm speaking, you won't hear that static as much, and it's gone. So I don't know if that's a bug or something inside of the code that is causing this, but it's gone now, and I can speak freely without that monitor being there. So a couple of the other settings in here, I don't know too much what the protocol or broadcast are. High pass filter basically cuts out low frequencies. So if I turn this on, it's going to let high frequencies go through. And then for low pass filter, it's going to let low frequencies go through. So if I bring that down to 3000, I have lost all of my heavier frequencies, and yeah, this is how it speaks if I don't if I have low pass on. So I'm going to turn that to no, and then turn that to no, and then I put output buffer size ratio to 19. I don't actually know what this does, but default is 5. You could leave that there if you so choose, and then everything else I think is fine to leave as is. I'm not too sure exactly what they do. So the biggest one is going to be turning off that performance monitor. You'll see that if I turn this back on, you'll start to hear that clipping occur, or that little static noise in the speech, and that is no good. So what you want to do is just make sure that the performance monitor is turned off, and you should be good to go. So
that's gonna be it for today's video. So hope you guys enjoyed this little mini series of the real-time voice changer and how to train some models on here. So go have some fun with it, and yeah, once again, if you're a member of my channel, very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for being there to support me monetarily, and go check those community tabs for those files depending on what tier you are. And yeah, and with that, I'll see you guys later.